Bar mitzvah?
Yeah, I was bar mitzvahed at Auntie Emmett. And afterwards, we had, in our apartment, we had, October 10th was the date, 1942, it was war. We had, I remember we had a coat rack, you know, so people would come up and they would put their coats on it. It was like, today I'm a keychain, or today I'm a wallet. And that's what you got. And it was not anywhere near the kind of thing that we have today. It's like we're living on another planet today.
Okay. Your parents were both born in Chicago, is that right?
My mother was born in Kewanee, but shortly after, I would say by the time she was maybe 10 years old, they had moved to Chicago and opened up the stores.
Mm-hmm.
When he was in Kewanee, he was still a peddler. So she always considered herself from Chicago. Both my parents went to the University of Illinois. Okay, my father was president of the fraternity. My mother was president of the sorority. They met there. As a matter of fact, I think my mother never finished. I think she only went 3 years and they got married, but I'm not sure of that. But I seem to recall something like that.
And they got married in Chicago?
Yeah, I wasn't there.
You don't know where they got married, or was it a synagogue or a hotel, or
My parents,
wedding type of
my parents knew they were Jewish, but they were non-practicing Jews. They never saw the inside of it. Synagogue. Always belonged to a synagogue, but they were totally non-practicing.
Well,
So,
apparently they felt a support for you and your sister.
They felt it was important that we know who we were. And we went to Sunday school, and, I was bar mitzvahed. My sister was not bar mitzvahed. But they felt those things were important, and that I would make my decision about how religious I was going to be at a later date. But for them, that it was not an important thing. Or it was not important to be more religious than they were.
Are you good? Do you want to continue? You want to take a short break?
Well, we can continue.
All right. Okay, talking about you, were you named after anybody? I mean,
If I was, they didn't.
Historically,
I think so. At that time, I think everybody was named after somebody. But I don't remember who.
Okay. Did you have a Hebrew name or anything like that? What's your Hebrew name? Do you remember?
Well, in Sunday school, they called me one thing, and I don't know, at another, and for bar mitzvah, they called me another, Ruvain and Raful, and, anything that began with an R, that was me.
Mm-hmm. All right. What was your relationship like with your sister growing up?
Well, my sister was 2.5 years younger. She was a passive person, and she and I didn't have much of a relationship. I mean, I was a big tease and used to bother her a lot, and she would scream and cry and get me in trouble and all, but we didn't really have a relationship. We weren't close at all.
Okay. So as you grew up, you finished high school, obviously, and went to college. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Well, I went to Senn High School, and I was 16 when I graduated. Of course, I was 17 the next month. And I really didn't know what I wanted to do. My father felt it was important. To him, education was the end-all. And he had gone to a big college, and he thought a small college would be much better. Small private school. So I went to Carleton College, which was like the Swarthmore of the Middle West. At that time, it was probably the most highly rated small college. We had like 900 and some students. I never would have been able to get into that school if it hadn't been wartime, and they were looking for students. Because we all assembled in the in the hall on the first day. And
what year was this?
This was in 1946, fall of 46. And I think the president was trying to impress us. So he said, will all of the salutatorians stand up? So half the new students, this was all just new students. So half of them stood up. Then he said, will all the valedictorians stand up? The other half stood up. And I was still sitting there. Because I was only 79th out of 450 kids. So it was pretty impressive, except it was a liberal arts college, and I was getting bored, and I was getting terrible marks. I was playing cards all the time, and my father came up the first year, raised hell, because it cost $1,000 a year for room, board, and tuition. And this was a lot of money for him. He was a man who, when he died, I helped my mother clean out the file cabinet. He kept every tax return he ever had. And, I mean, he was making $35,000, $40,000, $45,000 a year at those times. He wasn't making much money. So it was a big thing for him. And anyway, I wanted to go into business. So I took tests for the University of Chicago. At that time, if you did 2 years, like at the end of your sophomore year, you would get a bachelor's degree at the University of Chicago, and then you would go into one of the graduate schools for 3 years to get your master's. So I took a bunch of tests, and I was able to get in. I passed. There were a lot of subjects I hadn't taken, but I guess I did well enough in them that they let me in. And I got right into the business school, where normally I would be a junior in college. I was now in the business school. I had to take so many courses, and I wanted to get out of there as fast as I could. So I took one extra course each semester, and I went right through summers, and I did the 3-year deal in 2 years. And I graduated in the summer session of 1950.